This is a 98 Ford Expedition, and it's got the 4.6 liter. The problem with this one is that we're having an oil leak. And you see it's got the remote oil filter, goes over the frame, and these lines are obviously leaking. It's gonna fail. But what's funny is I cleaned everything off, and where the most oil is leaking, see that curved hose? If you go up past that, that's where the lines mount in, is that connection right there. And it's actually dripping the post higher up above that. I mean, just got a steady drip up above there. See that drip just fall? I need a way to get the light in, but where you see the pulley, between the pulley and that hose, it's that connection up there, that spacer block, that spaces down away where normally a bumper housing would go. So that's where it's leaking the most. It's leaking there, it's also leaking at the lines. You see at the end of the lines, that drip, the center, that black little bolt that's forming there on the line, and then also the one back here. So, but when I first got in here, it was just covered in grease mud. I mean, the whole thing was black. There was no way to tell where the leak was coming from. So what I did is I took non-chlorinated brake parts cleaner, wherever it went. I used the green CRC brand. Sorry for making everybody sick, but I spray it with that, and then I use a long extension on an air hose, and between the two of them I was able to clean it up enough to see where the leak was coming from. So that's that. One other little thing that I'd add is that the oil sending unit is located through the wheel well. Let me see if we can take the light off and show you it. See that orange colored component with the plug on it there? Now you can see it. And say I cleaned it off, and it seems to be leaking just a little bit, which is common for this year, you know, for being so old. But it's not the main source. When I initially got the call, I thought it was going to be that, because it turns out it's a spacer block in the hoses. It's going to be a lot more expensive of a repair than what I was hoping to do on a cold day such as today. But you know, it's like I tell people, I don't get a fix, you know, what breaks, but I can give you some good options. I've been watching River Monsters on Netflix, where the guy goes into the Amazon and gets these giant catfish that eat people and goes after bull sharks and all that stuff in freshwater rivers. And you look up at the job, doesn't that look like a fish mouth? It's like, I'm gonna eat you. It's nuts. So anyway, back to the leak, back to the job at hand. We gotta juggle the light in the camera, sorry about that. But basically, you see that little, I gotta pull that off so that I can get to where it's leaking. But what's kind of a pain is you see that great big radiator hose, that one right there? That one's attached to it. So it tries to cool the oil down at the same time. And to get into that, I got to pull the whole thing off, so you got to drain the antifreeze. What you do to drain the antifreeze, it's on the passenger side, is there's the little drain cock right there. It's being shy. So that little white thing, that's it. I hook a hose to it and drain it down there. It drips straight down, and then it also drips down the tube. It helps keep it from getting real messy. This one's actually pretty clean to drain. Better than most, I would say. I've got the new hose from Ford. That's the part number. It's like 265 bucks. And this is the end that goes to, it's kind of shaped like a heart, upside down heart. But the trouble that I have is where it screws onto this thing. Let's see, this one is actually where it mounts on, see, like that. Where it mounts on, because of the salt on the roads, it's just ridiculously rusted on there. I went to undo the bolt, and the bolt snapped off on this one. The other one came out okay, but you know, you can see where I've been hitting it on the hammer on what I can get away with on that surface, because that's not a sealing surface, that's just where the bracket bolts to it. But the problem is I've hit on this thing and hit on it just like a fat bald guy in the bar. I've been hitting on her, and nothing's happening. So I took a punch and I used PB Blaster, and I've been just wailing on it, you know, on that. I've been shaking it like this, And I think I'm starting to get just the tiniest amount of movement out of it. I think it's starting to go. I think it's mostly the PB Blaster. But this thing is just stuck. You know, you quote these things when you think that it's just a little block and everything will come apart fine. This one's not been nice. This one's been horrible. It's taken an extra number of hours. I'm trying to get it done tonight and gotta go do scouts and stuff. I don't know if I'm gonna get it. But, I don't know. Good luck with yours. Hopefully they don't salt the roads where you are. About 35 minutes later and I've made zero headway. I've wiggled, I've sprayed, I've done all kinds of things with it. I even took a cut-off tool with a thin cutting disc, as you see here, a little DeWalt, and I cut down the side of it, and you can see in the cross section here that it's just perfectly corroded all the way up. I mean, it's just packed full of that white powder, and it still wasn't coming off. So my plan was to cut all the way down through that, but as I was cutting through it, it was just generating a lot of heat through the aluminum, and I was able to get the thing to wiggle. And with a little bit of wiggle and a place for the powder to go, it's finally able to come free. The thing is so incredibly stuck. I don't know how in the world I'm going to get the rest of that out of that piece. I'm probably going to wind up having to order in a new oil filter housing. What a mess. What a bugger. Fortunate byproduct of all of that heat from cutting down the side of that stud is that it heated the stud enough to burn some of that corrosion. And by putting it in a vise, I was able to get an enormous crack. And then a bunch of the stuff has been able to soak thin. So it looks like I will be able to get this done without having to wait another day to order it in. Good news. These things, you know, it's funny, you know, you'll quote these things or size it up to begin with, and you never expect stuff like this. You never expect to see corrosion of that magnitude. And typically, if you have something corroded in there, you can twist something to get it to, you know, move or break or come free. But whereas I've got all those pipes all the way across there and the bolt, there's no twisting this thing to make that happen. You know, until at the very end when I'm able to get that bolt. Now that is not a stud and a nut set up. That was a bolt. And the head broke off the bolt as I was trying to take it apart. So the red cap, that's just so I don't chew my arm up on the top of that shock bolt. But as you look down in there, you can see the water outlet opening and the two oil openings under it. There's the oil openings down below that were causing the leak. I don't know if you can even see that. But anyway, this is what the gasket to it looks like. You see the oil side, they don't stick up at all anymore. You can't even get one through the dealership. You gotta silicone it up again, which makes me sad. Could really use one of these about now. But anyway, that's it, and there are a total of 4 bolts. There's 2 by where I'm grasping it, and then there's one satellite out this side, and then one down there. And this is a complete, total, royal pain in the butt. See, that's the housing right there. We never could get the hose off of it. It wouldn't come off. It's just totally seized. And it's a 3-way hose. You can't just pull it off on one side. You got to pull it off of a bunch of different places, and I'm really concerned about creating leaks. Just because this thing is a ghetto trap. So anyway, that's how you do that. That's what this looks like, and yes, it's a total pain. I used a 9-inch extension from underneath it here. You can't see my dark blue gloves, can you? I used an extension up from here to get to these 2 bolts that are right here, and it's all 10mm. This one I did underneath, and then this one I did also the same way with the long extension. My hands are so